What is up, everyone? Welcome back to the Steve of All Trades channel. I'm on a roll today. I'm on like my 5th video. So basically today I'm going to be showing you how to use 3 basic materials to make yourself a survival situation shelter. So you might be thinking, Steve, what is this weird mummy-like thing on your floor? This is a grabber survival tarp. Basically. So it is just a standard tarp on the outside, and then on the inside it has this mylar material that in a cold weather situation basically will reflect heat back at you and will keep you, it basically radiates most of your heat back towards you. In a hot weather situation, you could actually flip this around and keep some of the heat and the sunlight off of you and make it a cooler environment below. But under that, I just have my sleeping bag, which if you're out in the wilderness, if you're backpacking or whatever, if you get stuck in a scenario and you have something to insulate you, even if it's a wool blanket or just a cheap microfiber blanket, it's something to keep some more of that heat in. And then finally below, I'm lucky enough where here I have my sleeping pad. But in a survival scenario, if you do not have a sleeping pad, insulation below you is so important. Especially if you're out in the wilderness, and especially if temperatures are getting below, I would say, about 50 degrees. Even in the summertime, if you lay down on the grass, you will feel how much body heat you are losing through the ground. So developing a bit of insulation in between you and the ground is so important. Obviously, this is a thermarest, but if I'm stuck out in a survival scenario, I don't have a thermarest. What I'll do is I would take leaves and basically put 2, 3, 4 inches of leaves as bedding under where I'm going to be sleeping. The reason I'm doing that is not only to create a little air barrier between myself and the ground, but it's also going to make it a little bit more comfortable than just laying on the cold, hard ground. That's one thing that we were always taught in Scouts, is to actually insulate below. And even when we were setting up tents, we put a little bit of layer, take some of the sticks out, but build a nice layer of leaves under it to help insulate you on the ground. Now, one place I noticed this when I was camping this past summer, I was sleeping on actually this exact sleeping pad, and my arms were laying off on the sides because I'm a big guy, so I'm bigger than the sleeping pad. So my arms were on the ground, and I kept waking up in the middle of the night because my arms kept getting cold. Everywhere else, I was like sweating hot, but my arms were freezing. And what I realized is we were laying on the cold, hard ground. There was nothing below our tent. And that's when I remembered, stupid, I should have put a layer of leaves or some insulation under there so that I wouldn't get cold. In the wintertime, this is I believe a 7 R value, so this is a good sleeping pad. But in the wintertime, what I'll even do is take a broader yoga mat and put that under there as well. And that will just add that little extra layer of insulation, that little extra bit to help keep you warm. But this is a quick shelter. When I took wilderness survival in Scouts, it's a merit badge that you can earn. This was one of the simple shelters that we learned. It's just called the Taco Tarp. And as you can tell, it's a little folded in at the bottom. And basically what I'm doing is I'm folding that over. Is that going to prevent serious rain from coming into the tarp? No, probably not. But it'll prevent 85–90% of it from getting in there. And then basically you just want to make sure that the edge of this, so I'm going to tuck this in, I want to make sure that the edge of this is leaning over the side. Obviously I want my sleeping bag under there, but that way if water's dripping off, it's not dripping onto the tarp and then going back under there. It would be helpful if I had a bigger tarp or a smaller sleeping bag to demonstrate this, but basically now it's almost like a bivvy where I'm completely covered. I'm under shelter if it's a bad rain or even winter storm. And I can survive under there. The key is survive. It's not going to be as comfortable as you would be in a tent or if you were under a set-up tarp. But you know what? If you are stuck in a situation where you need to get out of the elements quickly, then just a simple taco tarp setup like this is perfect. Would I recommend this in most scenarios? No, I would probably take the time to set up the tarp and just lay it real low, just so it's not, I don't like things on my face when I'm sleeping. But at the same time, if you're in a scenario where let's say you plunged into cold water, whether you're whitewater rafting or you fell through a lake or you fell through a stream or something like that, and you need to get out of your clothes and you need to get an insulation quickly to basically restore any any warmth that you might have left. Setting something up like this is way easier to do than attempting to use the fine motor skills of your fingers, which likely isn't there. When you're super cold, you don't have dexterity in your hands. So this is a good situation where if you're super cold, you don't have a lot of dexterity left in your hands. All you have to do is pull these materials out. A child can set this up. And it's a super simple survival shelter. Bivvies are actually pretty cheap too, so if you find yourself using this method a lot, I would recommend getting a bivvy over doing this often, just because it's not, it's not the best protection. But in a survival scenario, if you're cold and you have no dexterity left in your hands and you need to set something up quick, or that rule of 3 that I covered in one of my other videos, you basically have 3 hours to live, and that's in ideal conditions. So this is a great way to get out of that scenario, get warmed up, and then hopefully restore yourself and get back on the move. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Definitely try this. Try anything I recommend on here, try out in your backyard, try out on your deck or something like that before you go out and try it in the wilderness. That way you get an idea of what it feels like, if something feels right, if something feels wrong. That'll kind of give you an idea. Don't just launch yourself out into the middle of the Canadian wilderness or the middle of the upper Montana or whatever in the United States and potentially put yourself in harm's way without testing it and having an idea of what could go wrong or could not go wrong. So test this in your backyard first, get an idea of how it feels, if you like it or not, and then, either always bring a tent with you or know at least this is something that can get you out of a survival situation. No, it's not comfortable, but it's survival. None of it's really comfortable. So be prepared before you go out in the wilderness. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you next time.